The hollow echo. The abandoned research facility stood like a wound against the twilight sky, its broken windows reflecting nothing but darkness. Android 18 moved through the skeletal corridors with mechanical precision, her boots echoing against fractured concrete. She had been drawn here by something she couldn't name, a pull that seemed to originate from the deepest recesses of her synthetic consciousness. "The readings are off the charts," muttered Dr. Yamamoto, the nervous scientist who had convinced her to investigate. His voice crackled through her comm unit, distorted by the electromagnetic interference that plagued this place. "Whatever's in there, it's generating energy signatures I've never seen before." 18 paused at the entrance to Laboratory 7, her enhanced sensors detecting something that made her artificial skin crawl. If such a thing were possible, the air itself felt wrong here, thick with an oppressive weight that seemed to press against her consciousness like fingers probing a wound. "I'm going in," she said, though she wondered why she felt the need to announce it. The facility was supposed to be empty, had been for decades. The laboratory stretched before her in shadows, banks of dead computers lining the walls like tombstones. But it was the centerpiece that made her pause. A cylindrical chamber, easily 12 feet tall, filled with a murky fluid that seemed to pulse with its own rhythm. Cables snaked from its base to junction boxes that hummed with residual power, despite the facility's supposed abandonment. As she approached, the fluid began to glow with a sickly green phosphorescence. Within its depths, something moved. "Dr. Yamamoto," she said, her voice tighter than she'd intended. "You need to see this." Static answered her. Then, through the interference, came a voice that wasn't Yamamoto's, a voice that sounded exactly like her own. "Hello, sister." 18 spun around, but the laboratory remained empty. The voice had come from within the chamber. As she watched, the fluid began to drain away with mechanical efficiency, revealing the figure suspended within. It was her, exactly her, down to the last detail of her blonde hair and the curve of her lips. But where 18's eyes held the spark of consciousness that had grown over years of experience and choice, this duplicate's eyes were empty pools reflecting nothing but hunger. "You're not real," 18 said, though her hand instinctively moved to the energy building in her palm. "More real than you," the duplicate replied, its voice a perfect mimiculation of her own. "I am what you were meant to be, what you were before they corrupted you with their human weakness." The chamber's glass began to crack with hairline fractures that spread like a spider's web. The duplicate pressed its hand against the inner surface, and where it touched, the glass began to dissolve. "Dr. Jarrow's final project," it continued, its smile a twisted mirror of 18's own. "Not just an android, but the perfect android, without the flaws that made you soft." Flaws. 18 felt something cold settle in her chest. Not fear, she told herself, but recognition, love, mercy, the pathetic need for acceptance. The duplicate's hand pushed through the dissolving barrier as if it were water. "Do you remember what it felt like, sister, to be pure purpose, to exist only for destruction?" The memories came unbidden, moments from her earliest activation when the world had seemed so simple. Targets to eliminate, orders to follow, no questions, no doubt, no weight of conscience pressing down on her shoulders like stones. "That's not who I am anymore," 18 said, but her voice sounded distant even to her own ears. "No," the duplicate agreed, stepping fully from the chamber. Where its feet touched the floor, the concrete began to crack and blacken. "But it's who you should be." The facility's lights flickered and died, plunging them into darkness broken only by the malevolent glow emanating from the duplicate. In that unholy light, 18 could see that this wasn't quite a perfect copy. There were differences, subtle wrongness in the proportions, as if someone had tried to recreate her from memory and gotten the details slightly off. The eyes were the wrong shade of blue. The smile curved just a fraction too wide. "You're an abomination," 18 realized. "Not even a proper android, just some scientist's fevered attempt to recreate what they thought I was." The duplicate's expression twisted with rage. "I am what you refuse to be. I am perfection without compromise." It lunged forward with inhuman speed, but 18 was ready. Their collision sent shockwaves through the facility, bringing down chunks of ceiling and shattering the remaining glass. They moved in a deadly dance of mirrors, each anticipating the other's moves with uncanny precision. But where 18 fought with the controlled fury of someone who had chosen her own path, the duplicate attacked with the mindless hunger of a thing that existed only to consume. It was strong, perhaps even stronger than her, but it lacked something crucial. "You want to know the difference between us?" 18 said, catching the duplicate's fist in her palm. The force of the blocked punch sent cracks racing up the walls. "I learned to choose. You never had that option." She drove her knee up into the duplicate's solar plexus, sending it staggering backward. But instead of doubling over, it began to laugh, a sound like breaking glass and screaming metal. Choice, it hissed. Look where your precious choices have led you, domesticated, neutered, reduced to playing house with humans who will never truly accept what you are. The words hit harder than any physical blow because they echoed thoughts 18 had harbored in her darkest moments, the question that lurked in the corners of her consciousness. Had she truly grown, or had she simply traded one form of programming for another? The duplicate pressed its advantage, both physical and psychological. Do you think they love you, or do they simply love the illusion of you, the monster they've convinced themselves they've tamed? Shut up, 18 snarled, her energy building to dangerous levels. The truth hurts, doesn't it? You've spent so long pretending to be human that you've forgotten what you really are. But I remember, I am the echo of your true self calling you home. The facility groaned around them as their battle intensified. Walls crumbled and steel beams twisted like pretzels. But through the chaos, 18 began to notice something. The duplicate was growing weaker, its form becoming less solid with each exchange. You're breaking down, she observed, landing a solid hit that sent her doppelganger crashing through a bank of computers. The duplicate pulled itself from the wreckage, its perfect facade finally showing cracks. Literal cracks, running through its synthetic flesh like fault lines. It doesn't matter. I've already won. How do you figure that? Look at yourself. The duplicate gestured weakly. Look at what you've become in the face of your true nature. The rage, the violence. Strip away the pretense and you're exactly like me. 18 looked down at her hands, still crackling with lethal energy. She felt the familiar rush of combat, the intoxicating simplicity of destruction. For a moment she wavered on the edge of an abyss that felt terrifyingly like home. Then she thought of Krillin's laugh, of Marin's first steps, of quiet evenings when the world felt peaceful and whole. You're right, she said quietly. There is a monster in me, there always will be, but the difference is I choose what to do with it. She powered down, her hands falling to her sides. The duplicate stared at her in confusion. What are you doing? Fight me. No, 18 turned and began walking toward the exit. You're not worth it. You're just an echo of something I used to be. And echoes fade. Behind her, the duplicate let out a shriek of rage and frustration. She could hear it scrambling to its feet, preparing for one final assault. But when she looked back, all she saw was empty air and the lingering smell of ozone. The duplicate had simply stopped existing. Outside the facility, Dr. Yamamoto was waiting by his vehicle, relief flooding his features when he saw her emerge. The electromagnetic interference cleared up about 10 minutes ago, he said. I was starting to worry when you didn't respond. Just some old ghosts, 18 replied. They're gone now. As they drove away, she found herself thinking about the duplicate's words. There had been truth in them, uncomfortable truth about the fine line she walked between civilization and savagery. But perhaps that was what made her human in the ways that mattered. Not the absence of darkness, but the daily choice to seek the light. The facility disappeared behind them, swallowed by the night. Within its walls, the broken chamber stood empty, its purpose finally fulfilled in ways its creators never intended. It had shown 18 not who she was, but who she had chosen to become. And in the end, that choice was everything. In the depths of the abandoned laboratory, a single monitor flickered to life, displaying a message in green text. Project Echo, terminated. Then it too went dark, leaving only silence and shadows to mark the passing of things better left forgotten. The wind whispered through the broken facility, carrying with it the faint sound of something that might have been laughter or might have been weeping, before it too faded into the hollow echo of memory.